If you happen to check out my top 5 CRPGs of the last 10 years, you would know that despite a difficult competition, Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous ultimately won out, taking number 1. Part of the reason for this is the universe of Pathfinder itself, and the planet of Golarion, and the fact that it was a tabletop module that had been transmuted into a CRPG. I was disappointed, but also understood, when I found out that Owlcat had no further plans for more Pathfinder content, at least for the moment, but relieved and excited when I heard about the first CRPG set in Golarion using Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules, Dragon's Demand, a game being made by Ossian Studios. Now, Ossian Studios contacted me, but is not sponsoring this video, as I very much have interest in this game regardless, and am going to talk about the game on my channel now and in the future. So what is this new game, Dragon's Demand? Dragon's Demand is a CRPG based on one of the most popular Pathfinder modules ever, made for beginner adventurers, revolving around, surprise surprise, a dragon. Founded by a famous dragon slayer, the small town of Belheim has become a sleepy rural community just off the beaten path, a settlement where everyone knows everyone, and strangers are the talk of the town. But when Belheim's peace and quiet is shattered by the sudden collapse of the last standing tower of its founder's castle, things quickly bloom out of control. Why were there bodies of kobolds amid the rubble? What's the sinister secret behind the strange sounds of flapping wings in the night? And what's happened to local wizard Balthus Hunclay, who's not answering knocks on his door? The collapsed tower had long been an eyesore to the cantankerous old man. Could he have something to do with its destruction? And what of the rumors of strange stirrings in nearby Dragonfen? Has Belheim's ancient draconic nemesis returned? And Ossian Studios seeks to recreate and transmute this pen and paper experience into the form of a CRPG in as faithful a manner as possible, meaning, for example, that you can, if you so will, use actual visible die rolls, as opposed to silent die rolls, which are more conventional in CRPGs, to simulate that experience. But much more than that, Dragon's Demand will include many tabletop features that often get neglected in CRPGs, such as the climbing of ladders and ropes, walls, cliffs, and trees, or throwing grappling hooks to create your own climbable paths, taking cover behind obstacles and foliage, making use of dim light or fog for sneaking, striding through different terrain difficulties that impact speed, foliage, slopes, and mud, among others, forcing open doors, windows, and containers with a crowbar, squeezing through tight spots like holes and crevices based on character size, levitating and flying influenced by winds, swimming and diving influenced by water currents, leaping horizontally and vertically, and grabbing onto edges or falling to an uncertain fate. In terms of player choice and options, Dragon's Demand offers a lot, including the deep custom creation of character builds from a choice of 7 different ancestries or races, 16 classes, and more than 30 backgrounds, with the option of attribute flaws to give real character to your protagonist. And you can play as a dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin, halfling, human, or an orc. In terms of classes, the following classes are available. You can play as an alchemist, barbarian, bard, champion, cleric, druid, fighter, investigator, monk, oracle, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, swashbuckler, witch, or wizard. And your party will be a party of 4, with 3 companions you can choose out of a total of a dozen characters encountered during your adventure, including the iconic Fumbus, and you can befriend them or even romance them. Now, the game will have an initial level cap of 8, but if the stretch goal is reached for Ossian Studios, that cap will be raised to 10 in the form of DLC. The new 2nd edition magic system will be implemented, which includes arcane, divine, occult, and primal magic. And there will be hundreds of items, including armors, weapons, that will look visually different on the miniature characters. The world map is interactive, allowing you to choose where you go. For example, the Dragonfen, the Verduran Forest, or the town of Belheim. And so you see you have a lot of options when it comes to building your character, as well as your party. In particular, I love the fact that Ossian is continuing the tradition of having an iconic character in the game, with Fumbus the Goblin Alchemist being that character. If you've played either of the original Pathfinder games by Owlcat, then you know the two iconic characters from those games, Amiri in Kingmaker, and Seela in Wrath of the Righteous. Iconic characters are characters that specifically represent the classes they are. So Amiri was an iconic barbarian, Seela an iconic paladin, and Fumbus is an iconic alchemist. Now that's the game, but I think I should probably tell you a little bit more about Ossian Studios. They're an indie game development studio that specializes in CRPGs, and their pedigree includes extremely popular modules for Neverwinter Nights and Neverwinter Nights 2, including Darkness over Daggerford, Mysteries of Westgate, and Tyrants of the Moon Sea. And now Ossian seeks to make the first CRPG using Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules. But it goes much deeper than that. The aesthetic that Ossian is going for is again that of the tabletop experience, seen in the miniatures that you will move about the game. There aren't many studios out there with a specific background and experience of Ossian, and more importantly, devotion to the craft of CRPGs. All the people at Ossian are passionate tabletop RPG players and players of CRPGs themselves, which is always one of the best prerequisites for making a game in the genre. These aren't just people making a game because their corpo overlords have commanded them to do so. Rather, it's a passion project they've been wanting to do for a very long time. And I think that they're the studio that's competent enough to do it. Now let me give you some of my personal reasons why I think this game is worth supporting. The first reason, I already mentioned, is it's Pathfinder. If you're longing for another Pathfinder experience after Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous, then this is the best option out there. I also like the length, to be honest. The game is estimated to be some 30 hours long, which is the perfect length for multiple playthroughs. Now don't get me wrong, I love super long RPGs as much as the next guy. But this game really meets my desire for a more compact adventure that is nonetheless complete, and that's hard to find these days. Finally, I am really curious about how 2nd Edition Pathfinder rules will be implemented in a CRPG, as the majority of people out there seem to prefer 2nd Edition rules to 1st Edition. I've personally always been a fan of D&D 3.5, and consequently Pathfinder 1st Edition, and though I've read the rules and I'm familiar with the basics, I have not as yet actually played any Pathfinder 2nd Edition tabletop. So it's going to be interesting to see how these new systems are implemented, including magic, as well as the removal of the alignment system. All in all, I'm very much looking forward to the game, and encourage you, if you can, to head on over to Ossian's Kickstarter page, which I will link in the description, and contribute if you want to see this game come to life. I think it's well worth it, and before you go, do check out their trailer for the game, which will be playing right after my words here. And as always, thank you for tuning in. If you like my content, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Take care, and now, enjoy the Dragon's Demand trailer.
Deep within the ancient Verduran forest of Golarion, in a treacherous swampland known as the Dragon Fen, there is a tale about the dragon tyrant Aeterapax, slain 1,000 years ago by a band of heroic warriors. But victory doesn't last forever, and enemies shall eventually rise again, calling forth new heroes to embark upon a perilous quest to save a town and defeat he who would once more call himself the Dragon Tyrant.